thanks for joining, Kevin. I appreciate it. Happy to hold this event, How to Choose a Mentor, and I'm sure we can go more into that as well. Right. So let's just get started. For those who don't know you, you mind giving a super brief intro?
Sure. So Kevin Wallace, over 10 years in the esports gaming entertainment space, another 5 plus in the ad tech sales and nonprofit spaces, with one exit, one acquisition, and one Techstars company passageway, I guess you'd call it, in my background. So done a decent bit of mentoring in the space and had a decent bit of my own. So happy to share the pros and cons today.
Great, thanks. Yeah, I wanted to start the discussion first around what you think of as a mentor. So when you're picking mentors, everyone has mentors. I have mentors. You have mentors. If you don't have a mentor, you should definitely get one. But how do you go about choosing mentors? What is that process to you? It's a little bit different
Sure.
for everyone, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I like sorting mine into kind of one of three buckets, and I take a little bit of an investment approach to it. You've got your most basic. I'm not going to call them low level mentors, but I would say probably the easiest to obtain. And those would just be people in the space that you respect. It might be someone on LinkedIn who provides a bunch of quality posts. It can be a coworker that maybe has some seniority over you and is open to educating you. I tell a lot of people that you probably have more mentors than you realize. It's just everyone's used to this super formal. I have to ask them to advise me, and they have to say yes. But realistically, a mentor is just someone that you can learn from and you respect. Respect being the important part there because it's relevant to dialogue. But that second middle stage, I would call it a little bit more time investment too, is someone that you've actually approached. You've talked to about the idea of them becoming a teacher or a mentor for you. You generally align on some sort of common goal or shared interest, or even just investment into you as an individual. This can be, once again, people that you work with. This can be more senior members of your industry. It can even be people that have an in-depth knowledge to the extent that they can convey their knowledge and their specialty in layman's terms, so that way you can learn it easier. And they can be in a completely different industry of yours. I have some mentors in the space that are industries that I don't touch on, but are really great at communicating that value prop back to me as someone that's not in their industry. So I've chosen to learn their subject matter expertise because of how good they are at conveying it. And then I'd say like the premium, most like top tier mentors, and these are the ones that are hard to find. They're ones that go out of their way to invest in your future. They'll often plan opportunities for you to meet people that generally aren't within your network or your normal reach. They'll spend time helping you get into certain events or parties. They'll hit you up and ask how your family's doing or how work's going. I call them kind of your universal mentors in the sense that they're not just focused on one specific thing, like your education or company you're currently working for. And, those, I think I've probably had maybe three in my life that have really met that criteria. And one of them was the one that actually got me into programmatic advertising and ad tech, and is now the head of insights and data quantification at Quantcast. So I think it's important when approaching someone or even just framing your own mindset and identifying which one of those three areas the person falls in, because I think often people have an expectation in their mind of what a mentorship relationship would be like and try and impose that on reality before putting in the homework to actually figure out, does this person have this time availability? Do they even have this interest? Do I qualify for their time? I think that's the respectful thing to do, as a step one when trying to identify a mentor in the space.
Yeah, a few years ago, I had someone come up to me and we had been talking, and they said, "Hey, I would really love to formally like make an arrangement for you to be my mentor." And I scratched my head and I was like, "Okay, this is interesting because I already thought I was." I didn't need to have a discussion around mentorship on, if you can tell, just within gen makers, talking with people, having in-depth discussions, posting about different industries so others can learn is how I find myself as a mentor on kind of a higher level. But on then a deeper level, it really is having those conversations and having people that want to advise you in your career path or in a startup in the sense because you did stuff with startups in Techstars with mentoring and advising. How does it differ for someone who's trying to start a business in more of a business relationship versus a personal mentorship?
See, I think that's actually a really good point to clarify also for anyone that might be listening to this when trying to evaluate those relationships. Because you're right, those are two very very different styles of dynamics to work with someone. So when it comes to the personal side, like you and I
Oh, looks like you cut out for a second, Kevin.
sorry, I was saying I like to take the eternal student approach when it comes like my personal mentors. There's always things I want to learn and things I'm interested in. Your wealth of knowledge you share with me on the NFT and crypto space is a good example. But when it comes to like the business and startup world, I think that probably can probably be one of the most overwhelming things for a lot of startup founders, because in the day you want to get the best resource possible, but I think people often look at people's pedigrees or resumes when evaluating mentors, and the highest drop off rate I see is generally in the first mistake of not knowing what to ask for from a mentor. Techstars had a really really great program example of whenever a founder is talking with mentors, they have to have an ask. You need to be able to go to them and go, hey, I'm looking for introductions to your network. I'm looking for your feedback on a specific product or feature set that I have. I'm looking for you to help groom some of the folks that are in our C level to become better experts in their field based off of your background. But there's always an ask you have to frame, because that's not only respectful of a mentor's time, but it also makes sure that the dynamic that you're establishing is productive. So I would say if you're a startup person out there and you're wanting mentorship and it's something that you're looking to pursue, you need to have, before you start reaching out to these people, a plan of how they can get involved, how they can help, because it's not their responsibility to figure that out. That's, I would argue, is much more of a personal mentor. They'll look at kind of your growth overall and help from there. But a business related mentor and advisor, you need to have a plan. You need to have something that you're asking for them. I personally always like the idea. I'm more BD, as you know, and partnerships. So I'm not looking for someone to teach me how to code or to check my tech stack or something. So my first ask is generally an introduction, and it's generally framed pretty specifically, especially in the last few years, around not so much someone in their network that could be influential to me, but I ask them, what are three people that you consider as personal mentors in the space, and do you feel like any of them would fit as a general or business related mentor for me? And then I ask why, either why not or why so. And I would say that's probably your responsibility as the startup member to do from day one.
That's a fantastic call out. So we have some entrepreneurs in Gen Makers who have actually said, "Hey, I'm working on a business plan. Would you mind taking a look at it?" One was actually for a nonprofit, which was awesome to see. Uh, what is your thought on, and this may be slightly different than normal, but what do you think about groups like Gen Makers, people who have different experience, expertise? Uh, how do you consider someone a mentor if this is, say, a common group that wants to help out everybody? I'm just curious on your thoughts around that.
Sure. I think Gen Makers is a really example of what I call like a premium mentorship opportunity. And what I mean in that is like, once you reach a certain level of confidence or experience or knowledge in the space, you're not really classified as someone who's green or new anymore. And the positive outlook we would like to have is that people don't get self-conceited. They don't feel like they know everything. So they should be trying to continue to learn. But you're once again, you're not a noob. So when you have an opportunity like Gen Makers where everyone in the community is an expert of some kind, they're all accredited, they're all coming from a background of a deep knowledge space. I think that's when it becomes, once again, on the mentees requesting side, the prerogative to figure out, a more specific ask. So with Gen Makers, we'll use the nonprofit that came in as an example. Where a normal nonprofit startup may be looking for introductions, board members, grant opportunities. In an atmosphere like this, I would instead be asking, hey, what other projects are folks working on in the space that might be relevant? Are there any internal projects at any of the members' companies or corporate programs that might be a good fit? And rather than asking straight for the introduction, ask, do you know the criteria for them? Is this something that you can get and I can sit down and talk with you or someone that works with you about? Approach it from the idea that you're not asking for something, you're still trying to qualify to be worth their time. And as long as you come from a humble standpoint like that, I think this is probably going to be one of the most opportunity rich environments you can find, simply because then everyone knows you're going to respect their time. You're not just going to flake or go dark on people after they've put their own time and effort into things. So once again, not to be a broken record, it comes back to making sure you're prepared with the right ask and you have action items that you can implement as soon as someone else provides that one intro or that one resource that you're looking for.
Yeah, that's so true. And hey, I wanted to call out. I think maybe a week ago, you posted in the Idea Lab channel recommending a new channel for like seeking a teacher or education desired type of channel where people can actually request other gen makers in the community, that might specialize in a specific area that they want to learn or get, mentorship in. So we are looking to implement that, uh, probably next month. And so I'm super excited about that because everyone does have, a different background, different expertise. And for me, it's all about, collective intelligence and collective
Exactly.
learning. So that's hopefully going to be something that people utilize.
The one call out I'll give for concepts like this admittedly, this is I'm not speaking as a gen maker's policymaker or anything. For those of you listening, this is just a personal recommendation that comes from a place of respect. Um, if you do get lucky enough to get the time for someone in the gen makers community to work with your project, this isn't a community built off of membership fees or a quid pro quo expectation by any means. So I think this is a really good opportunity for those of you that might be listening to showcase an amount of respect that isn't as common in the place and make sure that you're not only being respectful of the individual's time that are helping you, but also the value of their time. As a startup project or a nonprofit, you may not have the funds to pay someone, but there are other ways like, asking them if they'd be willing to take an advisory position where they get a little bit of status and a little bit of recognition publicly for their time they're volunteering. Work with that person on maybe down the road figuring out if there's some way that you can introduce someone to them that might lead to them generating revenue or getting some value back for their time. And the expectation, once again, isn't quid pro quo by any means. It's not why we're here. It's not why we're doing this. But I think it goes a long way, especially when you're dealing with experts, if you at least make the attempt. I mean, 9 times out of 10, people are going to come back to you and say, hey, don't worry about it. That's not why I'm doing this. That's not why I want to help. And those kind of people are amazing. But the one time that you're able to actually do that for someone and there's not that expectation, it provides a really good bridge of trust and respect that is probably one of the best foundations you can have for mentorship opportunities.
Absolutely. Uh, I did want to see if anyone in the audience wanted to come up. You can raise your hand, and if you had any questions, we would love to take them. So if you click the little hand button if you're using a desktop, it's at the bottom center, or I think it's at the top right on mobile. But if anyone has any questions, feel free to come up.
One I might ask while folks are getting up here to you, Adam, is out of all the mentors and folks you've worked with and respected in the space, what made that one person that was most impactful to you impactful in the first place?
Oh, that's a good one. I've had mentors throughout my life, depending on, whether it's personal or professional and depending on the industry. Um, I would really say the ones that made the most impact were the ones that cared about me as a person versus just, yeah, and I'm not even saying like just personal. It could still be caring about me in business and my success. but ones that would take the time out of their day to answer questions, hop on a call, and time is very valuable. So being able to do that and work through different stages in my life were really incredible. And you don't get that with all mentors. Different mentors have different styles. They have, different requests from you around it. But ultimately, the ones that invest in you truly are ones you want to keep around.
Love that because that resonates with me very well. I've had some people that were very interested in projects in the past, or how internally at companies I might be able to help them look better, but simultaneously learn. But the ones that really stuck with me, the ones that are on the metaphorical Christmas card list, so to speak, are definitely the ones that like I mentioned earlier, have asked how family is doing. They'll be the ones that remember, hey, how's your dad and your grandparents doing out in Kentucky? After an hour and a half long call talking about all the projects I'm working on. It doesn't take a whole lot in my opinion, but unfortunately that little bit of extra effort is also so rare nowadays that I think it's like a good teacher growing up in school. You remember it for the rest of your life.
Absolutely. Oh, hey, HD. Thanks for joining, man.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good to hear. Did you have a question for us?
Yeah, so if if I want to get a mentor in a new industry, say like NFTs, I know Kevin was talking about gaming, just different things like that. Would you recommend kind of having some like surface level knowledge of the area prior to like seeking a mentor, um, versus just saying, "Hey, like I don't know anything about this, be my mentor and show me everything from the ground up," or just, having some type of knowledge before approaching somebody?
That's a really great question. I think different mentors provide different levels uh, of knowledge and support. So from that in itself, like for example, Kevin has been in the gaming industry for a very long time, and I like Web3 and NFTs. So in that sense, would be perfect to talk to, and you have gen makers to be able to do that in itself. Uh, it depends on your knowledge, though. So if you're still learning about Web3, NFTs, if you're still learning about the gaming sector and whatever that might actually be, uh, you're gonna look for different mentors with different levels of abilities and knowledge.
To piggyback off that too, I would say doing your homework on a mentor is always a good idea. Some of the things that I was told to look out when I was learning my evaluation skills at a younger age was, if I'm looking for a mentor that is going to teach me something in an area that I'm not super familiar with, the respectful thing on my end would probably to be Googling, we'll use esports as an example here, or NFTs, but, esports 101 or NFT 101, and try and have at least enough of a base knowledge to where if I'm talking to them and they ask, hey, are there any areas in particular that you're looking to learn about? I at least have some surface level knowledge that I can kind of provide back to them. At the same time, if you're doing your homework and you're evaluating this mentor before approaching them, and you see that they're a really active public speaker, some of us have that even on our LinkedIn. You'll be able to see, are they talking on high level conferences? Are they constantly on X Industry 101 panels? This is a really good way to gauge whether or not the person's a high level technical knowledge expert, or if there's someone that has experience in translating the education and value prop in layman's terms, which means they'll probably be more predisposed to being able to help someone that's new in the space. One of the biggest hurdles that mentors often have, especially with someone that's new to an industry area, is where to supplement their knowledge base. The old age Adam of you don't know what you don't know is very, very applicable in mentor based relationships. So, telling someone, hey, Adam, you haven't done an event before, so when doing an event, here's a checklist of things that you should probably make sure are on fire. Adam could potentially get a lot of value out of that. Or Adam, especially given he is actually very knowledgeable in the space of event management, may fire back and be like, hey, I knew these things. Are there any other pitfalls? Or he might go, hey, I didn't know item A, but I knew item B. And his mentor can come back and go, oh, well, if you didn't know A, then you probably don't know the reasons why A is a problem. And they can explain those elements that lead to that situation. But if the mentor doesn't know at least your base level knowledge, then oftentimes, they could skip over something that they see as like a common knowledge fact. I wouldn't explain to someone in the esports space who TSM is, or Cloud9, or FaZe Clan. But for someone new in the space, I just named three names that probably have no meaning to them whatsoever. And now I need to go back and educate them on the entire hierarchy of tier-based orgs, why they matter, their different brand backgrounds. So just be honest with mentors when you're asking for help about what you know and don't know. The worst thing you can do is blow smoke and make them seem like you know way more than you do.
Yeah, that's good advice.
And now I'm really interested in what you're working on. So yeah, actually, can we take a few minutes?
Yeah,
What are you working on?
I want to hear about it.
I have a couple of projects that just mostly in the real estate sector. I'm a real estate developer, so I'm real big into that industry. But I've been in it about 6 years now, and I'm trying to expand into commercial real estate. And I also want to. I guess I have like a 3-tier dream or vision of like what I want to get into, which is real estate, cannabis, and like I guess like where things are going now, like NFTs, like crypto, all of those kind of things. And I'm familiar in the cannabis market, but I have no idea what I'm doing in and I guess within like e-commerce, like NFTs and crypto and stuff like that. So I guess that's that third leg that I wanted to get knowledge over. But I'm really, really green in that area with really no knowledge other than what's out on social media.
Let me ask you, if someone had to sit you down and ask you to sort those three things into tiers or categories based off of either importance or how you're wanting to actionize on that knowledge, which one would be first when it comes to your revenue? Which one would be second when it comes to your passions? And which one would be third when it comes to just your interest in wanting to learn something new?
Mm, I would say my biggest interest would be probably like the NFT kind of crypto space. I feel like that's where, technology, that's where things are going. Like even now, with digital real estate, people are doing a lot of, they're selling land and all of that kind of stuff in the metaverse. So I would say interest wise, probably the technology side of it. Revenue right now definitely would be real estate. Um, what was the third one?
Just something you want to learn for fun, which in all fairness, most of the people I know, cannabis is definitely in
Yeah,
that category.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, cannabis. How to? I think Texas. Even though Texas is a red state, I think it's only a matter of time. We may be literally one of the last states, but I think we're only a matter of time before they start to legalize it here. So I'd be interested in maybe standing up some type of CBD store or something like that, like have something, a brick and mortar already in place. So as soon as it's legalized, I can just bring the product into something that I already have standing. But just the knowledge of how to get a brick and mortar shop and how to do all that, I don't know how to do that.
So I don't want to derail us here too much, but one piece of advice I'll give real quick. Chamber of Cannabis is the Instagram account as well as I believe the Twitter. It is the organization that is behind the legislation.
Hey, Kevin, you're cutting out a little bit. I want to make sure he's able to hear.
This better?
Yes, much.
Yeah, you said Chamber of Cannabis.
Yeah, Chamber of Cannabis. They're an organization that worked on the legislation behind Nevada, more specifically Las Vegas, getting social clubs for cannabis consumption. But they also are connected to every major legislative cannabis body on the West Coast, as well as some in DC. But I know for a fact their group is always interested in talking with people that have the real estate background to understand how land development and brick and mortar locations can be utilized. And if you let those folks know that you're based in Texas, if they don't get back to you within 48 hours, I'd be surprised, and I can gladly bump them for you. I'm actually
Mhm.
going to be chatting with some of them this weekend when I'm in Vegas, but they they see Texas as actually probably one of the sooner states to turn, simply because it's got the land to be one of the largest grow and export facilities in the
Oh
U.S.
wow, wow.
So I would definitely take a look at that. I'm sure they'd love that background, and I think if you need some cannabis and NFT crossover knowledge, there's some really good folks in the Gym Maker server that have experience in both. And if
Yeah.
not, always give me a poke. I'll help you find somebody.
Okay, cool.
Hey,
Hey,
D'Angelo.
D'Angelo.
Hello. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for joining us again for another discussion. I do have a question. I think the questions that you asked HD about ranking the passions, the interests, and all of those things, that's good framework too when approaching a mentor as well. That's a good organization tool. We know that there's a lot of variety that a variety of value that a mentor can provide, but my question is on the opposite end of things when it comes to a mentor who is not the right fit. So how do you manage a relationship with a mentor who's not providing you with perhaps the value or insight that you're looking for?
Ooh, this is one of my favorite questions to get because I disclaimer to everyone listening. This is always going to be reflective of personal style. All my sales and BD people out there, you'll know why when you hear this answer. Operations, everyone else, this is a good thing to learn. One of the most difficult things, especially with a mentor that you've put the time and effort in finding, you've done the respectful thing and done your homework, you've checked all these boxes that should ensure that the person's going to be receptive and proactive back to you, still doesn't mean that's actually going to happen. A lot of times, unfortunately, you have 9 mentors that are flashes in the pan for every one that actually sticks around. So the important thing is to not feel a sense of entitlement or expectation towards anyone's time. You'll never feel disappointed if you maintain that mentality. But also, it makes it easier for whenever you have to have these kind of self-evaluation moments where you go, man, I haven't heard from this person in a couple of weeks, or they're leaving me on red, or they talked a lot of games, said they make a lot of intros, but it never happens. Which I know Adam is definitely familiar with that one, as am I. You can't expect anything. You're not paying them. This is not some college alumni mentorship opportunity or a formal program where there's expectations and deliverables. This is someone else willing to invest their time and do you a favor because you're seeking something from them. And it just doesn't work out always. So being respectful, acknowledging that, hey, maybe this isn't the right time, just send them a quick message. Be like, hey, I know you're probably really busy. Life is crazy. Blame it on COVID if you need to. That's fine too. But give them an out where they can be honestly upfront with you and say, hey, you know what, you're right. I didn't have the time for this like I thought I would. Or, hey, man, you know what, this really slipped by me. Let me get those intros out for you real quick. That has recouped probably half the relationships that I thought were dead. Admittedly, it also let me put them in a box where, hey, maybe this isn't a mentor as much as this is a really strong senior networking acquaintance, which is important to acknowledge too. Not everyone that has a knowledge base or can provide intros should be a mentor, and vice versa. Not all mentors actually provide the knowledge or the intros you need. So, to sum that up in a nice, neat answer, understand sometimes you just gotta cut the cord. It happens sometimes, but it will never go well for you if you're rude or you blow up on them or go, hey, what the hell? This person was supposed to do me all these things. Never, ever, ever trash talk someone who didn't provide the mentorship you're looking for. At best, you're going to burn that person and probably their network. At worst, you can get blackballed in an entire industry because you come across as impatient or entitled. This is an act of charity or an act of service, which at the end of the day doesn't have a compensation model to it. So you just got to accept sometimes it doesn't work out.
Thank you for that, Kevin. I've been very fortunate to have very positive experiences with mentors, but I know that navigating those conversations and making sure those relationships are being maintained is something that I've seen from a lot of my colleagues who've had more negative experiences. And so I think that's good insight on, making sure those relationships are being maintained, even if the mentorship relation doesn't work out.
Yeah, the easiest low hanging fruit slash T-ball, lob that I can ever give someone is keep in mind that just like in sales, as long as you don't slam the door shut, it's always potentially open a crack. So in this instance, if someone's not giving you instructions or they're not hopping on your project, giving you feedback, really easy thing to lob to them is, hey, are there any meetups in your local area or organizations or membership groups that you're a part of that you'd recommend that I try and join? Because a lot of times people aren't teachers, even though they have knowledge. So if you give them an opportunity to, for lack of a better phrase, pawn you off on another group of people, but now you know it's a qualified one, maybe it's where they got their knowledge base from, then you've still gained something for the time you've put in, and you don't have to have an expectation of return anymore.
I like that. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Hey Kev, thanks for joining us, man. First of all, I actually really like your perspective on finding a mentor. Mainly when you said that it's primarily focused on the mentee. The success of a mentorship, I don't think it's on the mentor. It is on your job to have a plan and be able to extract the data value that you're looking to get out of this person. And you can minimize that to your expectations, of course, but I really think the success of a mentorship program is definitely on the person. Like, what is your will? HD, I know earlier you had mentioned it was like, well, you know, when looking for a mentor in a new industry, do I just throw my hands up and say, I don't know this, teach me this? Personally, I would never mentor someone that would do something like that because, like I'm like, hey, do your research, come back to me and ask me questions. Don't make me work more, right? Because I'm already busy. That's the reason why you want a mentorship. So, no, I appreciate that, Kevin.
Of course. And I think to all you listening and those down on the stage, Dom just probably hit on the most important element I've ever experienced, both as a mentee and a mentor. And that's you can't expect your mentor to lay out the road for you. If they're going to do that, they probably would have done that for someone in their family, someone in their office they're already invested in. So coming in with questions, like the easiest filter I have for people that look for a mentorship for me is I give them reading assignments the same way I'm very thankful Adam does with me on things that I'm interested in. If they don't take the time to read through it and come back to me with questions, I'm not going to follow up with them. It's not my responsibility at that point. Like unless you were someone that was recommended to me as a friend, as a favor to them, then I don't have responsibility to chase after you. But if you've got a list of questions, you fire back to me or say, hey, can I put 10 minutes on your schedule to kind of like condense what I know? Then hell yeah, I'll take time on my day. You've shown that effort. And that I think that's a really big respect thing too.
Yeah. I think one of the experiences that I personally had was value. Like, can you bring value to your mentor? Like, why should I want to mentor you? Should I take the time out to even talk to you outside of, hey, human decency, right? Hey, how you doing? I hope you're doing okay. But we don't have to go deeper into a conversation. So could you give me value to make me interested in you more? Because like Kevin said, we have people that are 1 or 2 degrees away from us that could really use our help, that we barely have time for now. I was actually, the only reason that my advertising agency exists today is because I was invited to a home in Hollywood when I first moved to California. That home belonged to Russell Simmons. And my first thing to Russell was, hey, I know you just started an influencer marketing agency. How can I help? Here's an influencer that I'm currently managing. Do you see them working with a brand, that you're working with right now? He's like, well, Don, we haven't even thought about working with brands yet. Oh, cool. I can help with that. And I have a whole company today because of that conversation alone. So definitely identify the value you can contribute to a mentor before asking for shit, right? So, yeah.
I love that. I absolutely love that you mentioned that because I feel like that's another area that's so under acknowledged. Is like if you're looking for a job, if you want to join someone's team or their project, the best way to like start that on a good foot without looking like you're just entitled and holding your hand out is to ask them, can you help? Are there things that you can provide in your network? Come to them with maybe a recommendation or as you mentioned, hey, did you think of this element before? Even if you get hit the worst case scenario where someone feels offended that you're trying to like critique what they're doing, there's going to be a small part in their head that goes, actually, wait, shit, should we have done that? Should we be doing that? This person has the gall to bring this idea up to me, so maybe there's a reason. And I'm not gonna lie, I've probably taught myself and gone through more thought exercises because of situations like that than anything else in my life. And a lot of times it's really productive. But also, that person then becomes someone that I immediately start going, okay, well, hey, you may not be at the level where I want to hire you or pull you onto a team, but you're thinking the right way, and that's the hardest thing to teach. So, let's put a little time in your education. Let's see, hey, your idea is maybe we should bring more brands in. Then cool, you've got runway. Go get one brand in 30 days. Show me you actually have some, putting your money where your mouth is mentality. And if you do, cool, we'll explore that more. And if not, well, hey, it's no skin off my back.
Love it. Well, I appreciate all the questions, everyone. And we did run over time, so I don't want to take too much of Kevin's time, but I appreciate the conversation and the questions, and for you hopping on, Kevin.
Always. Gym Makers is a great community. Really happy to, as we talked about even today, provide some value back to people that have been amazingly helpful in my own learning and education process. So, for those of you listening, if there's one takeaway, think about how you can contribute to the whole before you ask for your piece.
I love that. All right. Well, that's a great ending. I appreciate everyone's time. Have a great day. Talk to you later.